So this morning's first panel is starting off with a bit of a bang with a interesting concept around the keynote idea, usually delivered by one person, but today it's going to be delivered by three of the leaders in the Australian music industry who are going to do 15 minutes each on the concept of success and the steps to a successful career and what they have done. We've got, first up, one of the great Australian managers, Jodie Regan from Spinning Top Music. She's taken largely Western Australian music to the world. Acts like Felicity Groom, Peter Bibby, Pond, and of course Tame Impala. Next we've got the General Manager of Touring from Chug Entertainment, behind such artists as Radiohead, Florence and the Machine, Amy Schumer, Hosier, Laneway Festival. They've got partnerships with Destroy All Lines and CMC and all sorts of different things, Susan Heyman. And a whiz in the marketing world, Marty Court, General Manager of Frontline Music. Working with such acts as Ed Sheeran, Skrillex, Thelma Plum and Illy. And I believe, Jodie, you're going to kick off with the first keynote.
Thanks, Woody.
No worries.
Hi everyone. So, the theme for today is what is the recipe for success that we will all be talking about. Artist management is my field of expertise, apparently. Now, my co-speakers, my wonderful co-speakers, actually did a whole lot of stuff, and they've got all of these slides, and they're going to take you through all of this really, really organised, amazing stuff. And for me, as an artist manager with 3 acts on the road right now and a guy releasing an album today, I had no time to do that, so I'm just going to wing it, because that's what artist managers do, constantly. It's like you can never plan too much because your plans will have to change definitely within probably half a day. So that's one of the things that we do. Now, the recipe for success for me, really, there just isn't one with artist management at all. Each act, I manage a bunch of acts. Each act needs different things from an artist manager, and they all have a different idea of what success is to them. It is not what my idea of success is for them. You know, it is my job to help them realise their success and what it is for them and how that they can achieve it. As an artist manager, there are no there's nothing that you can look at when you see an artist and you think, I want to manage them. I think that, you know, that artist and I can create a successful career together. There really is nothing tangible. There's nothing you can even really articulate about what happens when you see that artist and really think that you can take them somewhere. There's no figures or stats or anything that you can look to give you any kind of hint as to whether that artist will be successful or not. It really is way more of it's like a gut feeling or instinct for any of you that are managers or want to be managers. You've probably all felt the same thing. You know, you'll see an artist, and I'm getting goosebumps actually, just thinking about it, because that's what happens when you see that artist that you just think, I have to be a part of this, and you have no idea where it's going to go and how it's going to get there, but there are certain, you know, things that you can put into place. I mean, from that minute you ask the artist, can I please manage you? Will you let me manage you? And then for them to decide that, yes, you can. Like, it's actually a really intimate and personal thing that happens between an artist and a manager. Because it has to start with this just seed of belief in each other. You know, I believe that they can get there, wherever that is, and they believe I can help them, and they're allowing me to be in that position where I can try to help them. And, you know, from the belief there comes this just full commitment. It's almost like a marriage or a partnership, because you never visualize the end to this relationship. There is no end. It's a relationship that is, it is sort of, it's us and it's me and them against the world, really, or with the world together as a team, and it's this fully committed relationship where they then have to have this enormous amount of trust in each other, because there are many different aspects of an artist career where we really are, we're on the inside together, the manager and the band, from the minute that they start writing their songs and playing their songs to you, to us then delivering them to a record label or working out that we're going to tour with somebody, and we have to find all of the right partners together. And, all of those things come through from, basically it's like you've filtered through the manager to the artist, and most times, you can't just keep going back to the artist for answers on things, because if you know that artist, you need to be able to give answers immediately. So we're in this position where they trust us to guide them through everything that they need to get there, to say no when you know that something is not going to be right for them, even though the opportunity has presented itself and it might look like a great opportunity. It just might not be what the artist needs or wants at that time. It's a really... The other thing that the artist and the manager have to be really, really equal on is a work ethic as well. We're committed. The manager commits to working basically 15 hours a day to bring an artist's art to the world. And when you start specifically, there's no money involved in any of it. You have to work for the love of the music and the love of the band and for what you feel like you might achieve. And if you're working this hard, the artist has to be there with you and work the same amount, because that's the only pay that you get is working together towards a certain goal. So there's all, if an artist, for example, the other day, one of my artists, I really had to sort of reevaluate what he wanted, because I wasn't sure if he and I were sharing the same vision. I know what I could do with him, but did he want to get there with me? And, I had to ask him to visualise what it was that he wanted, where he could see himself in 20 years and what he wanted to get, and he was like, I want a house in the country with a plot of veggies and I can hang out in my garden. And I was like, that's really great. How do you expect to pay for that? Do you want to pay for that by working a job and then playing gigs around town and having music as a hobby? Or do you want to pay for that with your music? Because if you want to pay for that with your music, there are things that you have to do that becomes like work. It's not just, oh, I'm good at this, it's all just going to land in my lap. It's like, I'm good at this and I need to work really hard at making this something that is viable and something that can get me income to be able to live my dreams and to be able to get that little house down south with a little veggie plot. And because, basically I just said, if you want to pay for that house with your music, then I can help you. And if you want to pay for that house by having a job and using music as a hobby, then I just can't help you. There's nothing that I can actually do for you. So we need to really be on the same path together, working towards the same things. You know, with Tame Impala, their great, you know, success. Kevin Parker, he's a producer and a recording whiz, and for him, you know, he always had the ambition to take his music to the world. He always looked beyond anything locally, but his music, the sound, you know, those sort of things are all very important to him, and he has worked harder than anybody I know to get to where he is at for his art and where it was going. And I have to equal how hard he works to get him to where he's going. But he's always had a very clear vision, so I always had a very clear way of being able to help him. Then, you know, other bands of mine, Pond, their great idea of success was just being prolific, releasing loads of records, not doing much touring. So, you know, we had to try and work out a way where they could release 6 albums in 6 years. And that was what they wanted, you know. It wasn't a huge international touring career. It wasn't even, you know, a huge amount of commercial success. It was releasing lots of records and making lots of records and travelling in that sense. Each artist has a different set of values that it's up to the manager to bring from them and to find out. And funny thing is, like, the way that the career travels, like Tame Impala and I have been together now for, well, I mean, we met 10 years ago, but the working as Tame Impala together this way has been 8 years now. And those goalposts always change too, you know, like what they want a year ago is not the same as what they want now. What they can achieve a year ago is not the same as they can achieve now. And it's up to the manager to be constantly checking in and making sure that what they're getting and what they're achieving and how they're doing it is how they want to do it and how they've always wanted to do it, and that is bringing them the success that they want and that they are capable of getting. Just looking at my little notes here because I am definitely winging it. Well, yeah, I mean, I think the lifetime commitment to an artist, it's a really, really heavy thing for a manager. Like, I think when you decide that you're going to be a music manager, you really have to understand that commitment is the hugest thing to give to someone who's not your life partner or your family. You know, these are people that you may have never met before and have probably never met before, and you're committing your life and your time to them for that, to be part of that bit of magic that will hopefully see success for all of you and for everybody, for the band and for the manager. But yeah, what that success is, it really is a very, very individual thing for bands and for managers, I think, and for what you can achieve. I think I'm getting close. It's like, oh yeah, I can wing it. I can talk for hours about this stuff. Now, certainly, a part of what an artist manager does is work with people like Suze and Marty along the way, and finding the right teams to be behind you and beside you, to help you through is very important too. Managers definitely, it is a very lonely job, because you do have to, you know, you're not part of the band and you're not part of the crew and you're not part of the promoting team and you're not part of the label. You're definitely very alone in what you do. So you really need all of these great team members to be able to help you and prop you up as well, to help give you and your artist exactly what they need. So having people like Suze and like Marty beside you all the way is really important, and really important for your artists too, and finding the right people to help you do that is really important too. So I'm going to wrap it up around there, and I'm going to hand over to Suze and she's going to take you where she's going to take you.
Thank you, Jodie. I have put this together but don't know exactly how to work it, so we'll see how we go. So I'm here to talk about touring and promoting and what the recipe for success is in my world of the music industry. So in my mind, there's four key considerations in delivering a successful tour and a successful experience for the artists that you work with. First thing is finding the right act. It seems obvious and simple, but it's obviously the first step in the process. Presenting the right deal and securing the act for the right deal is critical. Once you have that act, you've found the act and you've got the right deal, the next step is focusing on the sales and the costs, and then delivering a great experience. So finding the right act, I started with Chag Entertainment about 12 years ago, and back then it was all about record sales. Call the label, we want to check out this act, find out how many of the records they've sold, how many in New South Wales, how many in Victoria, where can we route a tour, and that's obviously changed a lot. The record labels are still very important and sales are part of that picture, but now it's about radio airplay, media attention, downloads, YouTube streams, Facebook likes, Instagram likes. There is so much more that forms the picture of whether you can basically take a punt on an act and decide you want to put your money on the line to tour them, or my boss's money on the line in this case. Then the other step is really being early because of the change of how people are discovering music. Everyone is onto everything. An act can put one song on SoundCloud and suddenly they've got every label chasing them and every promoter chasing them. And the difference for us as a promoter is that you have to actually be putting cash down to make a commitment to tour an act. So you really need to be early to be in there first, but not too early before you really know an act might have one great song and then not be able to back it up with a full record, or worse, a live show. If they've come out and they've had a great song and they haven't had the time, like bands like Tame Impala, to get on the road and really hone their craft, and then they have the biggest song of the year and can sell 5,000 tickets, but they don't have a show to deliver, then that's going to be a problem for you. And finding people's opinions who you trust. This is really important to me personally. Whether it's Marty at a label, I'll call her and get her honest opinion on whether an act that we're looking at is really viable to tour, or friends all over the world who are hearing about things before you, managers who've signed new acts, and it's really about knowing whose opinions you trust. So a few examples of that. One thing I kind of glanced over is the media attention. We have toured a couple of bands who are quite similar in sound, of Monsters and Men and High as a Kite, and I'm referring to of Monsters and Men's very first tour in Australia, where they were playing, I think we played the Corner Hotel in Melbourne. They had nothing going on in Australia, literally no radio was playing them at that point, and no media was really talking about it, but it was all happening internationally. So the world is very connected now, and just having your Pitchfork reviews and NME and Letterman performances and Saturday Night Live, all of that stuff is filtering to Australia. So the first time we toured of Monsters and Men, even though there was literally nothing going on here, they sold out a club level tour very easily. And a similar act, High as a Kite, who we toured, we had them on Laneway Festival this year, and we actually, or was it last year? I can't remember. And we had them in for a setup tour before that. They are huge in Norway, and they were getting success in Australia. I think 3 different songs were played on Triple J, but literally nothing anywhere else in the world. No one in America, friends of mine in the music industry in America, had no idea who they were. And we brought them in and they did the same level of business. So it was just a really interesting comparison to see that, the world is, if you're getting the story overseas, it's still going to help you here, and vice versa. Hosier, who's just been in town and had a really incredibly successful tour, wrapped up last week. I heard about him because I was in New York at CMJ, and a friend of mine who does the same role as Millie and Glenn and Esty at Sounds Australia. I don't know if you guys know them, but their music export office. The music export officer for Ireland was talking to me, and she just said, you should check out this guy, he's really amazing. I don't think he had a label deal at that point or an agent or anything, and that was just an example of having someone who was onto it early and could sort of give me that opinion, and it was someone I really trusted. So presenting the right deal. There is a huge misconception that if you can find a hot act as a promoter, you're guaranteed success, which is not the case. People will say, oh, you couldn't lose money on Beyonce or Jay-Z or AC/DC or whatever it is, and I don't know if those tours made or lost money, but the bottom line is it's about the deal that you strike when you land that act. It's about paying them the right fee, programming them on the right festivals, putting them in the right venues, the timing of when you bring them out, the ticket price you charge. We had a great experience with Tame Impala, who are on the road right now and slaying it all over the country. We had a really long dialogue with Jodie about ticket pricing and what we wanted to charge. It was really important for this band, who were having incredible international success, to come home and have the same experience here. And we knew that their fans, how their fans felt about pricing and the shows was important. So we decided to go in with a $59 ticket for an amphitheatre tour, which is really quite reasonable. And the shows sold out in a matter of days and weeks. And I think it's probably, they played in Melbourne last weekend, their biggest show ever, to 12,000 people. So no one is going to remember when someone says, oh, I went to Tame Impala and it was sold out and amazing. Well, it was $59. They're not going to talk about that stuff. So it's really about helping elevate the bands and give them every shot at success. This was just another example, a tour that we did in January with the Kooks and Catfish and the Bottle and the Griswolds. We had a deal done with the Kooks for a headline tour, and we kind of took a look at it. We knew we were putting them in big outdoor shows, which were general admission, and just felt that we needed to give them, again, the best shot at selling those shows out. So we went back and actually restructured the deal, and we brought the ticket price down. We booked an international act to open who were really buzzing at the time, and a local act who were having great local success, and we had them in large outdoor venues. So the idea was that if you make it affordable and you make it a package and you make it's a Saturday night at the amphitheatre, people who maybe would sit on the fence otherwise will go along. We packaged it together, and it became a really successful tour as well. So just being a little bit creative and not just assuming a band's name is going to sell your tickets is important as well. Focusing on sales and costs. Promoting it's an educated gamble, but it's a gamble and it's a guessing game. So you really need to do everything that you can to prepare as best you can and set the tour up for success. And then as soon as it goes on sale, you will know whether there's money coming in the bank or a bit of a scary future. So as soon as you launch a tour, you need to be ready to be agile. If Tame Impala, our shows sold quickly, and we ended up adding shows almost immediately while there was momentum. When shows don't sell out quickly, you generally have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 months, whatever it is, to change course. So it's all about being creative and marketing and cutting costs as well where you can, without compromising what the end result's going to be. Delivering a great experience. We, unlike labels, we don't sign a multi-tour deal with a band. We have to kind of rest on the success of the last experience. So it's really important that we deliver a great experience. It's a very competitive business. So we need to deliver the best financial result, but we also need to give the artist a great experience and take care of them. It might be as simple as making sure that they can get in to pat a koala at the Lone Pine Sanctuary, or just making them a lot of money. Whatever it is that is important to them, we need to make sure that we deliver a great outcome. Whatever you do up to that point is irrelevant if you can't give them a great experience. There's no rule book with promoting, which is probably my favourite thing about it. I wrote this last night when I was being optimistic. Promoting is fun. It's not always fun. I'm sure there's other promoters in the venue. One of Travis is here, who's our partner with Laneway Presents, and Emily York's in the audience. It's not always fun, but it mostly is. And what is really fun about it is you get to go to gigs and festivals for your job, but it's also anything can happen. And I think that's personally my favourite thing about it, is that you can come up with harebrained schemes and they can actually turn into real things. So I was talking to Emily York, who's our partner with Penny Drop, about this yesterday, and we had an experience earlier this year where we were both just big Amy Schumer fans and had been trying to get in with her agent, who was a really big guy in the US and difficult to get a response from. And I think we made an offer for about $5 on the first tour, which he obviously wasn't going to take. And then she became a big star. And we found out she was coming into Sydney and Melbourne to premiere her film. And we just wanted to get into the film, really. I think we just wanted to get tickets, and we couldn't find anyone who could get us in. So we had a conversation. We said, why don't we just email the guy and see if he wants to do a show? He won't say yes, but at least, we'll have some dialogue again, and maybe we can get a tour out of it next year or something. So we emailed her agent, and he said no immediately. And then about 2 hours later, he said, actually, someone else has made an offer, and you guys have been chasing for a while, so if you want to match it, go for it. But didn't tell us what city or when or anything, and she was landing in Australia about 3 days later. So we basically, with our amazing team in the office, called every venue, found out what was available, and I think we sent him a budget that said, if you can play on Tuesday, will be the Enmore Theatre, and if she's here on Wednesday, then it'll be the Opera House, and if it's Thursday, it'll be the State Theatre. And presented him with all these options, and he replied, oh, she's in Melbourne. Like, okay. So then we found the only venue that was available in Melbourne, which was Hamer Hall, and we put an offer together and sent it to him, and I think this was about 6 days before the show. And I played around with the budgets and worked out that we could offer the money we wanted, and I was trying to get hold of Emily, and she was out, and I ended up going to bed, and I just said to her, we're in, if you're in, just you make the decision and tell him, and we've got to confirm it overnight. So I woke up at about 5 in the morning to a text message saying, it's done, we've got it. And I think by 2 o'clock that day, we announced the show. The whole team rallied, and we got press releases written and artwork done and venue booked and tickets ready to go on sale and the contract reviewed and the money wired and visas and everything. We announced at 2 o'clock. We went on sale at 10 the next day, sold it out, crashed, I think, this venue's website, the Art Centre's website. And the show was 5 days later, and she came and went, and we looked at each other at the show, and we're like, well, we didn't know this was going to happen a week ago. So, it can be really fun. It's not always that exciting, but it's something, find things that you're passionate about, and it's not like working in a business where there's 7 levels of approvals on everything that you do, and, you have friendships and you have allies, and it can be a really exciting thing to do, but it's risky. It's not that simple, but it's a lot of fun if it's something that interests you guys. And that's me.
Hello. So the subject matter we were given today is quite tricky, as when we sat down and talked about it, and I think Jodie alluded to it earlier, we realised there actually isn't one recipe to success. There are ingredients, there are methods, but they differ from act to act, song to song, and the question is quite misleading in its simplicity. So what I've tried to do is come up with some basic principles that can be adjusted to suit the nuances of the artists and the team around them. Saying the word team is actually very important these days, and as you know, we all kind of work together and get on together. Our relationships come from music, our relationships come from the jobs that we do, but I'd like to think that now it's not easy. Everyone knows it's not easy, and we have to take an approach that it's more of an allied forces attack than people protecting their own territories. So I think in the time that we've been doing this, there's been a great kind of step change towards everyone working together and building trust and transparency. So there'll always be issues and there'll always be agendas, but I think now we can have 3 parts of the business sit on stage and talk about how we interact with each other, how we work together, and how we rely on each other, which is very exciting. So let me try and do this, which is going to be the fun part. This is the principles that I based it all around. First of all, you need to listen. Let me go through it. So listen, understand, define and refine. First of all, the listening part. Firstly, you have to listen to the music. That sounds so obvious, but it's always the starting point. And it's surrounded by a bunch of questions. Some of them, the classic record company ones like, where does it fit? Is it relevant to the current market? But mostly, importantly, is it good? Time and time again, people can fall into the trap of what's hot rather than what's good. And I hate the fact that I can't say that without putting Miley at the end of it. But in the world of so much music, we need to think, is it good enough to cut through? And good doesn't mean a pop hit, it means passion, love, and belief in something that resonates, which I think you all got from Jodie's speech earlier. It's about pure belief and trusting your gut. We need to listen to the artists and their team. How do they want to be perceived? What's important to them? How can you deliver that? But also push back if it's veering off onto the wrong course. I view our deals with artists like relationships in a similar way to what Jodie was talking about. You have the dating phase, which is signing or post-signing, and then the getting to know you phase. And then hopefully at the end of it, a simpatico phase. The getting to know you phase is probably one of the hardest parts of the journey and the one that takes a lot of time. Like all relationships, you sometimes learn about things by them going wrong. And having conflict and tension can sometimes lead to great results. If you are listening and building that trust, you have a better chance of resolution and achieving what's needed. We need to listen to our partners, people like media, retail, promoters and agents. It's no good having music unless there's somewhere to profile it. And in order to tweak campaigns to impact, you need to know what everyone needs or wants rather than think about what they're looking for. And this doesn't mean changing your plans and the artist because someone is looking for the latest EDM, tropical house, funk, hip-hop, jazz fusion track. It means knowing what you have in your arsenal and how that could fill a gap in someone else's armoury. At the end of the day, the music business is just that. It's a business. So if you have something that helps someone else achieve their results, why wouldn't you listen and say, well, what about this? We need to listen to the consumers. What do they think? How are they behaving? After the artist, this is the main driver. The audience is the one that is most transparent in what they like and what they don't like, particularly today with the amount of social interaction that's going on. It's therefore impactful on how we do our job. If you continue to market something based on assumptions rather than reality, you are not only doing your artist a disservice, you're actually not doing your job. Am I on track? Cool. But most importantly, you need to understand. There's no point in listening if you haven't understood what you've heard. So from that point, you then go on to define. You defined success. I'll come back to this in a minute because, as Judy said, Judy? Hi, Judy. Hi, Jodie. Success is different for different people. So what does it look like for the artist? What are the main goals for the project? And how does that work? There is no recipe, therefore no definition of success is the same for everyone. You need to define strategy. How are you actually going to deliver what you're talking about? You need to build a timeline, build a plan, and then be ready to tear it all up when someone doesn't add your record. Then you need to refine. We will always continually reassess. The most annoying question for any parent in the world is, are we there yet? But it's actually the most important one in getting a campaign right. Because when you get there, what next? What can you do to keep moving forward? And what are you learning if you feel you're moving backwards? Now, coming back to that definition of success, what does success look like? For different artists, it looks like different things. For Ed Sheeran, it was the fact that he was a kid playing house parties and shows wherever he could, and now his last album has sold 500,000 copies in Australia alone. He's the first solo artist to play arenas and the first solo artist to play Rod Laver since John Denver, which I think is a pretty successful strike rate. His definition of success, though, at 24 years old, is pretty big, and also one now that he has to follow up. For Illy, it was going from a base of just over 15,000 units on his third album to gold on his fourth. When Illy moved from a beast to setting up his own label at 1-2 at Warner Music, he had a lot to prove. So the definition of success was very different for him. He'd already had 2 gold singles under his belt and had been a Triple J darling for years, but now it was about upping the ante. which we did with a splattering of commercial airplay for Tightrope, his highest position in the Hottest 100 yet, and also a platinum single. Amongst the bigger sales, larger socials and stronger airplay, if you asked him what he was most proud of, he'd probably say playing to 17,000 people at Triple J's one night stand. For many artists, sales pay the bill, but success is defined by moments. And now we have an artist that we've signed called East. Is she successful? Honestly, I can't tell you that yet. She's 2 EPs in and only 17 years old, and it's very, very early days. But if you asked us if we succeeded, I'd say yes in what we needed to do to date. Primarily our goal at the moment is just getting people to know her name, which sounds like a minimal result, but it's actually a very big deal. We were offered like a version a couple of months ago, and we debated long and hard and sat there and thought, do we do it? Is it too early? What if it doesn't impact? What if she gets torn apart on the socials? What if she does the wrong song? There's a whole bunch of things that you have to actually consider when you put your artist into that environment. But we came back to the one thing over and over again, which was that she was good. So we decided that it was a risk that we were really willing to take because we thought she could deliver. And she did. I don't know how many of you heard her version of Bittersweet Symphony that she did, but it kind of was a golden moment on air, and at the moment it's now nearly 250,000 views on YouTube. So that's what we define as her level of success at the moment. Yes, Ed Sheeran has sold millions of albums in the world, 15 million in fact, but he also sold CDs from a backpack and played over 200 shows in his first year. Once an artist is developed, people tend to forget about the development. You can go viral, you can have a hit, but careers can take time. It's important to remember recipes are only the starting point. It's the cooking process that actually matters. That's us, but we'll like to open the floor to you guys to answer questions because there's probably loads that we haven't covered. But I've broken the PowerPoint. I've broken the PowerPoint, so sorry.
Hello.
It's the new leaders of the industry keynote. Thanks for that. It was all 3 fantastic addresses there from you guys, so thank you. We're going to open the floor to questions, but I had one quick question myself. There's a lot of people here starting out. What was the very first thing each of you did on your path to success? Like the earliest music industry experience, the first thing you did.
The very, very first, like before management, you mean?
Yeah.
Venue. Working in a venue, pouring beverages, enjoying beverages, and helping book bands. You know, seeing young bands, and I think that's definitely where it started, for sure.
I actually started as an intern at Chug Entertainment many years ago. So I interned there for a few months straight after I did my sports science degree at university, which has never been used. And then I went travelling and I came back and worked in a few casual jobs at record stores and management companies and labels and like call centres and things. And then I ended up going back to Chug Entertainment as just the dog's body in the office, buying lunches and cigarettes, and started there.
I was actually a journalism student, and I only ever wanted to work in music, so I rang Rip It Up, which was the street press mag in Adelaide, and told them that they had heaps of typos and that I would go in and proofread the mag every week. So that's what I did.
Excellent. So we will open the floor to questions to these 3 very experienced, intelligent individuals. Does anyone want to kick off with a question? Neil Wedd up the back.
Just how do you manage for success now? Because people seem to start and just go through the roof. How do you manage the expectation of the artist and their career? What do you feel is the best way to do that?
From a management perspective, the expectation of the artist is actually a really interesting one. And I think I sort of almost touched on it. It is difficult to manage their expectations because I think everybody, you know, every artist making music definitely wants to I think they would love to be able to do that as a full-time thing and make money doing that. There is not, it's like there's a lot of scope. I mean, nowadays I think as well, with all of the online stuff, it makes it a lot easier for people to notice you, but it also means there's a lot more people being noticed. So it's a lot more difficult. It's almost like it's shared a lot more diluted. You know, I would like to think that I manage people who make really amazing music, so I think myself that there is going to be a certain amount of success, and I think you have to start with the music, and it's got to be good, and that's where it starts. And I think you really have to make the artist understand and understand yourself that it's difficult, you know, and you really have to want to excel and want to work hard to be able to achieve any sort of success. Then you will be noticed. You know, I think it's like constantly improving your craft and constantly trying to improve your art that will eventually sort of make it rise to the top, I think. I don't know if that answered your question, but it's kind of a tough one.
Good enough.
Thanks.
Good work, Jodie. Does anyone else have a question down here? I should say it was very good.
Sorry to pick on you again, Jodie.
Oh, that's fine.
But when an artist is looking for a manager, apart from what you answered already in your speech about having a shared vision and all that, what are the important questions that an artist should be asking a manager to work out that they're the right person for them?
I think the artist should, that's actually really interesting too, because, and that sort of comes with the artist and the manager being a good match. That's that whole partnership thing, almost like a marriage, you know, when you find a partner, you know, what do you look for in them that is specific to you? A lot of managers manage very differently. You know, what I can give to my artists is different to what another manager can give. So I think as an artist, you know, you should look at other artists' sort of, I guess, careers and trajectories, what they seem to be, what seems to be important to them, if that's important to you, and if that manager is delivering that. Like, for me and my artists are really, really close, personally, emotionally. I'm like their great protector of their art. I won't let anyone come near it, you know. My business head is not very good. You know, I have people doing that because I'm not great with numbers and strategies and like real things like that. It's a very emotional based, the way that I manage, and that's definitely not for everybody, you know. I might also, you know, lose my shit at them every now and then for whatever reason, because it's so tough, you know. We're very emotional, but we all like it that way. So if you're not an artist who wants that sort of management, then you wouldn't come to me, you know. So I think it's really working out what's important for you, what you need, what you can't provide yourself. If you're really good at doing certain things, if you're really good at doing socials, if you're really good at speaking to record labels and you can represent yourself in that way, but you need someone to do lots of back-end stuff or do all your socials or do all of that. I think it really depends on what you think you need, you know, what help you need, really.
Anyone else?
Hi Jodie, I was just wondering if you were able to elaborate on what you were saying about if you're working with an artist who wants to go from doing it as a hobby to it being sort of their main source of income.
Yep.
Is there anything specific you would be sort of concentrating on?
Well, with that particular example, what had happened was, you know, the music's there, otherwise I wouldn't be managing that artist, it's already there. Then the opportunities start to come. And when those come, you know, there needs to be a certain preparedness from the artist to make the most of that opportunity. If you're playing at a festival overseas, why are you playing the exact same set that I saw you playing 6 months ago? That, you know, it was like, step it up, you know, where are you? What are you doing? Let's do it better each and every time, you know, like cater to like where you are. Like, do you see these opportunities? Do you want them? do you know what it means? Like, are you enjoying this? Do you want to like smash it out of the park, you know? Do you want to really give people the experience? Or are you just like going through the motions because you don't really know what to do with it? You know, it's like, is this terrifying you? Like, are you not comfortable here? And that's what prompted me to ask how he was reacting to the opportunities that were coming his way. Was he going to be okay with this, or is this just really uncomfortable? And is he much better playing small clubs instead of being at a festival in overseas somewhere on a big stage, you know? So it really is a matter of finding out what you want to do. Just because the opportunities arise doesn't mean that he's going to feel great doing that. That might just be the worst thing ever, you know, for him. But if it's not, if it's just being a little bit distracted or a little bit lazy or not quite knowing how to take that opportunity, then let's step it up, you know, and pick it up and really show people what you can do. And keep improving each time. Don't rest on your laurels, because I don't think that that's what's going to get you there.
How much more time have we got, Paris? 10 minutes. All right, next question down here.
Hi guys, thanks for doing this talk. I'm just question to Susan. You were saying like get in early and find the right deal. Is there like a sort of willingness to go a loss early to get in first and like build a relationship with that act when touring? Or is there just like, we're not prepared to go past break even and then not like to build that relationship with them?
Yeah, I think you definitely have to be open to losing money. It's generally you need to hope that there's a long-term plan where you'll make it back, but you don't always. And as I said in my talk, I am not a promoter. I work for a promoter and I generally risk his money. So that's a lot easier to do. But I'm just as careful with it as if it was my own. But using the example of Monsters and Men, which I talked about before, that first tour that we did, the deal that we offered was expecting to lose money, quite a lot of money. We had so much belief in what was going on around the world, and that if we could just get them here and in front of radio and in front of media, that things would start happening in Australia. So the deal that we put forward was projecting to lose quite a lot of money. As it turned out, as I talked about, the international press and story was strong enough that it did sell tickets, and we sold out the venues, and we ended up breaking even. It wasn't a profitable tour, but they've gone on to have incredible success here and around the world. But you definitely can't get too caught up in the exact numbers, because that can you'll lose a deal to someone else. But at the same time, it has to make sense. And there's a lot of people who, promoters who've come and gone that are willing to just, it gets emotional, they want the act, they offer too much money, and it was never going to actually come back to them. So I think you have to be willing to lose money, but we call those tours investing in the band, not losing money. So, yeah.
Does anyone have any questions around publicity? Or from Marty, you've had experience in the media and now, presenting to the media. Does anyone have any questions around that area?
What Woody's alluding to there is that I used to work at MTV in the UK as well, for a label. So I headed up the talent and music team over there, which meant that I got to watch videos for 2 hours every week, which was awesome. And then decide who we're going to interview and those bits and bobs and kind of make it happen. So, if there's that sign, feel free. Okay. Into mainstream media? From the internet. Everything is basically the internet.
So let's say that you're developing that. You target the niche market that they would be able to create a fan base from before going into the mass market, before trying to attack that.
Yeah, so basically it comes down to what your artist is and where you're trying to push it still at the end of the day. So if it's something that you want credibility on and it to be seen to be real, it needs to be real. You can't kind of manufacture that. And now the gatekeepers are kind of so wide and varied, and they stretch out globally, which is slightly disadvantageous for us, but also massively advantageous, because it means that you can get global coverage, whereas before we were kind of a little bit isolated. So yes, focus on blogs, focus on all that sort of stuff. Socials are social numbers, and they're just that, they're numbers. Unless they actually translate to engagement and investment in the band, all you've got is a bunch of digits on the page saying this is how many people follow us. You actually need those people to follow you and into a venue or actually to buy your music. So you do need to start in that world. There's been various shortcuts in the past, whether it be through reality TV programming. Those tend to be just that, shortcuts. And that's what I mean. Like, you can go viral, you can have a moment, or you can have a career. And to have a career, you've actually got to take every single step rather than think you can jump the first hurdle. If you don't want that, though, if you just want a viral moment, then go for it. But yeah.
Down here.
What would be you guys' favourite band? And because it's just hard to be asked. And
Tame Impala.
and how do you tell like the good from the bad? Like, because I know it's a hard question, but because you say like good stuff and bad stuff, but what would be good and bad?
Can I just start by saying I think the important thing with promoting is to not just to your favourite bands. I think a lot of people get lost in that, and you really, from my perspective, you really need to know that the artist you want to promote has a fan base and that you take pride in bringing that act to them. And you can go to a show, I mean, we tour country music, hardcore, indie, rock, pop, whatever it is, and I get the greatest satisfaction going in. Generally, we escort photographers into the front for the first 3 songs, and when I started doing this job, I thought it was the coolest thing ever to be in the front and watch the band from the best spot. But now I love looking the other way and seeing the people in the front row who are having the greatest night ever. And I might not ever really listen to that band. It might not be my favourite at all, but as long as you are delivering something to someone who is passionate about that, then that's kind of doing our job. And I've totally managed to get out of that question.
Yeah, you have. You didn't answer it. I was going to say, my answer to that will be different to Jodie's, because Jodie's got the great ability that she can love what she does day to day, whereas I love parts of what I do and I work what I work, which sounds kind of quite cold, but we're a major label, so there's stuff on there that personally you probably wouldn't go home and put on, but it's still as important as the stuff that you do go home and put on, which is similar to what you were saying. You know, there's things that keep the lights switched on so we can develop and invest in the ones that we actually love working on. But yes, Suede and possibly One Direction, but...
Yeah, definitely from a management point of view, for me and the way that I manage, every artist I manage is my favourite band. And that's, you know, like I said, I'm very lucky that I get to work with all of my favourite bands. I think some managers definitely would look at bands and think, that's going to make me some money and I'm going to do that. But I have never done that. Don't know if I will or won't, might. Not yet.
There's a question up there.
Hi. I think it's great to see Face the Music opening with 3 incredibly inspirational and powerful women. Congratulations. That's not congratulations for being women, that's just congratulations for being ace. I just wanted to ask each of the speakers, is there something in particular, an anecdote you could share or any kind of picture you could draw about challenges facing women in the sector? And there's silence.
I mean, I think there's challenges, full stop. You know, the music business is full of challenges, and given, you know, that I am a woman, I mean, I don't know what the difference. There's just been many challenges. I feel like there has been times where maybe being a woman has affected things, but I can't remember them because I probably didn't place any importance on it whatsoever. I certainly, you know, have had a lot like the belief that people have had in me, the belief that, and sometimes the doubt that people, I don't know that that's been anything to do with my being a woman, really. I think it's just the business. I don't have a story.
I don't know if anyone saw Jessica Hopper's keynote at Big Sound. I shouldn't be talking about another conference, but it's really amazing, and I think I related to, she opened that by saying that there are a lot of challenges, there definitely are, but she began her career in a really supportive environment and probably never felt them personally, so when things did come up, she kind of just brushed them off and was like, well, that obviously has no relevance, because she had that belief in herself despite those challenges around her. And I think I've had a similar situation. I've worked most of my career at Chug Entertainment. The two directors of the business are men. We have partnerships with some great men as well, and most of our team are actually women. Most of our senior management are women, our lawyer, our CFO, our marketing manager, our event operations manager, and there's great men in the business as well. But I think you just need to build a good reputation and build that with everyone, men and women, and stand by that, have your values and integrity intact, and you should really be able to earn respect, man or woman, from that. I think maybe that's a purist point of view, but that's my experience.
No, yeah. I will cover that. Yeah. And just on that, I think every one of us probably have had moments, well, I certainly know I've had moments where it's touched our world, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I want to be known as the best person in the job, not the best woman in the job. But aside from that, it's what is in the music industry is no different to issues that face women in any job or business, and it's a global thing, and it's all those issues about equal pay, all those touch points that everyone knows about, and that's all everyone's responsibility, because everyone's got a mother or a sister or a girlfriend that may not be getting paid as much as a guy. That doesn't happen so much now for us, I think. I think it is equal, and again, like Chug, we have a CFO that's female, we have a head of business affairs that's female, my marketing director is female. It's quite heavily weighted towards women in the business. And the biggest challenge I have is getting up at 6 a.m. for when my kids come in after being out at 2 a.m. That's one of the biggest things, that work-life balance and managing, but that's where you have people around you to help through it as well.
Just in closing, you all talked about your early experience, how you got in the game. For anyone who wanted to be in your respective field, what would you say is the best entry-level experience they could get in management, touring or marketing? The first step from this point on.
Oh, I think it's all different, Woody. A lot of managers, I don't know, that they've all come from somewhere, but it's never been the same place. Some have been lawyers, some have been, venue bookers, some have been from record labels, A&R, and then gone into management. Management's such a broad thing. It's such a weird thing. I mean, I didn't even know it was a job before I did it. I had no idea, and I didn't know I was doing it, even though I was doing it, until much later. So it's a really tough one. I think for being a music manager, you can just absolutely come from anywhere. But I think the one thing that we've all got in common is the love of music, and everyone comes from somewhere within music somewhere. Because music needs to be a part of your life. That's all there is to it.
Well, I started interning. I really believe in that. My office is full of people who started as interns and have been there for 8 or 9 years. It's a great way to get experience. I don't think there's really a course out there that can teach you the nuances of promoting. It's about managing. I've often said if I wasn't doing this, I'd be a politician or a psychologist, probably a diplomat. So you need to be the right personality and the right person, and just meet a lot of people, make a good impression, deliver when you say you will, and you'll get where you need to go in the end.
Yeah, pretty much what Sue says. If you've got an opportunity, a door open, take it and earn it. But go to gigs, listen to music. That's where it all starts initially. And don't be afraid to reach out and find a mentor and find someone that you can talk to about stuff as well.
Awesome. That was a great way to start Face the Music. Thanks for coming along. The special Keynote trio, what is a recipe for success? Jody, Susan and Marty, big thank you.